if he needed taxpayers to pay for his defense or if he could pay for it himself. Bulger answered, "I could if you give me my money back. That's the only way I can afford it." Prosecutors said they believe Bulger has the resources since the FBI confiscated $800,000 in cash from his Santa Monica apartment. And Catherine Gregg, Bulger's paramour of 40 years, allegedly told federal officials that Bulger's brother and family were able to help financially. Gregg's court appearance was in the same courtroom immediately following Whitey Bulger's. She is charged with concealing and harboring a fugitive. She smiled several times, twice to acknowledge her twin sister, Margaret McCuskey, who was sitting in the front row directly in front of the former Senate president. Gregg also is asking taxpayers to fund her defense, which prosecutors will object to at a Tuesday hearing. After the hearings, Bulger's attorney spoke briefly.
He looks forward to facing the charges against him.
Now, prosecutors also got in a good dig at Whitey Bulger, and it was about the $800,000 that was confiscated from his apartment in L.A. Quote, he clearly didn't make that on a paper route on Santa Monica Boulevard. Now, one person that William Bulger did speak with was Catherine Gregg's sister, who was sitting in front of him. Smiling, they chatted quietly for about a minute after their siblings had been led away. Reporting live from the Moakley Courthouse in South Boston, Janet Wood, News Center 5.
He's a scumbag, actually, is what he is. He's a mass murderer, and he's a destroyer of families.
Powerful words from a man who says Bulger murdered his father. A number of victims made sure that they were in court today to see Whitey Bulger in the flesh. News Center 5's Kimberly Bookman spoke to some of those families. They were so emotional today, and she joins us live from the courthouse right now. Kimberly?
Well, Liz, you know, this courthouse is not too far from one of the scenes of the crime. Just about 500 yards down this road is one of the situations where Whitey Bulger allegedly shot 2 men to death. Today, many of the victims' families came here to the Moakley Courthouse. They wanted to see Whitey Bulger with their own eyes, and they tell us they left feeling physically ill.
Kind of feel sick.
Going into the federal courthouse and seeing Whitey Bulger with her own eyes transported Liz McDonough back to 1981. That was when her first cousin, Deborah Davis, was allegedly strangled to death by the mob boss.
I was sweating, you know, because I also did know him, you know, myself, you know. And just to see him, you know, it's just everything's coming back again.
The belief is that Deborah wanted to end a romance with Bulger's accomplice, Stephen Flemmi, and Bulger worried she knew too much. She was one of the 19 victims Bulger allegedly killed. Tom Donahue's dad was another.
It was a sickening feeling in my stomach seeing him. You know, the guy that murdered my father, it's never, ever an easy thing.
Michael Donahue was murdered in 1982 after innocently giving a friend Bulger had a beef with a ride. Both were shot and killed. The Donahues have waited every day for the last 30 years to come face to face with Bulger.
I wasn't expecting a man so meek. I think I was expecting somebody that was more physically fit, more outgoing.
Don't be fooled by this old man, you know what I mean? Walking into the courtroom trying to seem frail. He's not. He's a scumbag, actually, is what he is. He's a mass murderer, and he's a destroyer of families.
Some very strong words you hear tonight. And that's not all for the Donahues. They say they plan to be at every court proceeding for Whitey Bulger from this point forward. Reporting live from Boston, Kimberly Bookman, News Center 5.
All right, Kimberly, as you saw, security at the Moakley Courthouse was extremely tight today. Heavily armed police officers, K-9 teams as well. Nothing left to chance. And tonight, Whitey Bulger is behind bars at the Plymouth County House of Correction. News Center 5's Cheryl Fiandaca is in Plymouth right now. Cheryl, you watched as the motorcade of police brought him there.
We did, Randy, and not only us, but a whole lot of people were lining the road here. As you can see beyond those lights, that's exactly where the prison is back there. And, you know, apparently Bulger told friends that he would never go back to jail, but jail is exactly where he is tonight.
It looked like a presidential motorcade with blaring sirens and police motorcycles, the blacked-out SUVs carrying heavily armed U.S. Marshals, and the infamous James Whitey Bulger. Speeding along Route 3, drawing a parade-like crowd, Bulger arrived at the Plymouth County House of Correction like a celebrity.
The unity that we have in the jail is the high-profile celebrity-type inmates.
This YouTube video, narrated by Plymouth Sheriff Joseph McDonald, provides a look inside the unit where Bulger will most likely spend his time awaiting trial.
We have to protect the public from our population. but a lot of times we have to protect our population from other elements of our population.
Bulger's safety is a priority for correction officers. The 81-year-old has no shortage of enemies. In the 1970s, he was an informant for the FBI, turning over information on the Italian mob. And now he's charged with at least 19 murders. And Bulger isn't the only one sitting in jail. Longtime girlfriend Catherine Gregg also got a dramatic escort to a detention facility in Rhode Island. She faces federal charges of harboring a fugitive. The pair spent more than 16 years on the run before the FBI caught up with them.
Well, Bulger is not allowed to have any visitors during the next 10 days other than his lawyer. He is due back in court for a hearing on Thursday. Reporting live from Plymouth, I'm Cheryl Fiandaca, News Center 5.
Well, a few of Bulger's family members were in court today, but one of them was his brother William. The former Senate president was mobbed by the media at the courthouse today. News Center 5's Jorge Quiroga joins us live in South Boston. Jorge, the Bulger brothers are a topic of much conversation tonight.
Well, suffice it to say, Billy Bulger was extremely cautious in what he said today during a very public display of family loyalty. Born and bred in the Southie of old, two brothers could not have taken more different paths to the same courtroom. Inside a speeding black SUV in handcuffs, one brother was driven to federal court through the back door. The other walked in the front. Billy Bulger, once the state's most powerful politician, to see his brother Whitey, once its most feared criminal. Asked about his feelings.
I gave a statement already.
Later, after seeing his infamous brother for perhaps the first time in some 16 years, the former Senate president, enveloped by a media scrum, betrayed no personal feelings.
Were you happy to see your brother? I'm not adding to my statement.
He waved at you. He recognized you. Did you recognize him the way he looked?
Yes. Still, even as a mere spectator, Billy Bulger was drawn into Whitey's court saga. When Whitey was asked if he could afford his own lawyer, he responded, "I could if the government gave me my money back." But prosecutors shot back that his longtime girlfriend, Catherine Gregg, had claimed Whitey's brother would help them get the money. Billy Bulger shaking his head as if to say, no way. I asked him about that on his way home.
And your reaction when he suggested you were going to pay for his defense? You're smiling now.
Well, I'm smiling at that.
Probably the most revealing thing he said all day. Now, suspecting that Whitey has a lot more cash stashed away, the government is fighting the couple's efforts to have taxpayers pick up their legal tab. Reporting live from South Boston, Jorge Quiroga, News Center 5.
And we want to take a quick break from our coverage of the Bulger case to check in with Mike Wunkum. Mike, what about this rain? Will we get rid of it before the weekend is done?
I think before the weekend we're going to get rid of it, but we've got another batch tonight and perhaps even tomorrow afternoon. You can see what's happening. All the thunderstorms that were brewing out in New York have now started to work their way eastward. What we're seeing here are a couple of cells. Now, this is just some light rain around Boston. You get along 495, Route 3. Here's where we're seeing some heavier stuff. And then as you look out towards Orange, that's our strongest cell right now. Let me switch over to Storm Team 5 HD Doppler and show you specifically. Now, this little cell that you see out here in the north, here's the tracking on it in Jaffrey in about 67 minutes. A lot of lightning with it, but that's about the extent of it. We're seeing some of these kind of blossom up where they're producing some heavy downpours, but nothing severe showing up on radar right now. So we're going to continue to monitor these, and it looks like we're going to be seeing more and more of that throughout the overnight hours. So tomorrow morning at 5 a.m., you're going to wake up to some thunder. Showers should be ending by 7, and then cloudy skies, and then we'll talk a little bit about that sunshine that may be coming in here for Sunday. Randy?
All right, Mike, thank you. Various sources are reporting tonight that the tip that led to the capture of Whitey Bulger came from Iceland. A person who once crossed paths with Bulger in Santa Monica, California, is supposedly the one who dropped the dime after seeing a report this week on CNN. And there is still quite a bit of skepticism about the FBI's role in all of this. Our Mary Saladna is in the newsroom. Mary?
Yeah, Randy, a lot of people still really questioning whether the FBI really wanted to find Whitey Bulger for the past 16 years. People also skeptical about that FBI ad campaign and whether it really generated a $2 million tip.
There's been some speculation over the past few days that somehow we had advance information that Mr. Bulger and Ms. Grieg were located in Santa Monica, California, in advance of a tip that we received. I want to disabuse everyone of that notion. We did not. And unequivocally state that.
The feds making it clear it was a tip call that led them to Whitey. But Bobby Long, a former state police investigator on the Bulger case, still wants to know what